All right. Another Thursday, another stream. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Brian. I'm the product manager of LaunchBox. Hopefully, you guys are doing okay. I've been having a pretty good week, trying to get a bunch of stuff out to the public. So we did manage to do that on the Android side, and we're working very hard. I know we had beta 1 on the Windows side, and we're working very hard to have beta 2 out. Focusborg, how are you doing? I hope you are ready for a good stream of debating some topics here. Sully the Monster, welcome in. I hope you guys are having a good week. How are you guys doing? What's on your mind? What's on my mind is the MAME high score stuff that I just spent all morning discussing and trying to work through on improvements to the system and all that good stuff. Oh, Snarfo67 gifted a tier 1 sub. Thanks so much for that. And Focusborg, hot dogs and sandwiches. And Sully the Monster, rough morning, so turning in but lurking. Okay, well, hopefully you find some value in this this stream. We've got a lot to talk about, and this time I'm going to take a page out of Josh's streams, and I'm going to start writing stuff down as we go. So let's say, first thing we're going to talk about is sort of like the behind the scenes section of this stream. The scenes. Okay, so what does that mean? Over the last week, for all you Android fans, Android got beta 4. I'm going to say beta 4. And I'm going to say that came out yesterday. Could have been the day before. And Andrew Speck, welcome in. I hope you guys are doing well. And Focusborg, you kind of, I'm going to say that says followed you. You went looking for the scans of console boxes. Yeah, we did discuss that. And you could, and I told you that you had to find them. And yeah, isn't that crazy? And Astrobob, Andy, welcome in. You finally can catch one of my streams. I hope it's not too much to say, but Astrobob, who has been around whoa. Big box power. Andre with the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. Who knew you had that power? But yeah, it's crazy. And Focusborg, look at that. You are one of the gifted now. All right, missed what you said, but arcade artwork has tons of cool scans, photos of consoles, boards, controllers, and such. So if they have of consoles, just not console boxes, I'm guessing. Not boxes. Yeah. Well, I do have. There was an old project of someone that created, I don't know, maybe 30-ish console box covers, but they conformed them to widescreen. They made them all the same aspect ratio, and they converted what the box actually looked like to conform to this widescreen. And it wasn't like the whole box; it was just like one side of it. I'm guessing the main side. And someone put together a pack. And I used that pack in Coverbox. And I think I created one or two for the pack as well, and grabbed some others from different places. I think people were creating for the pack. So that pack exists. And to be honest, I don't remember what the final tally was. But I'm going to guess I can check. They would be somewhere here. This one. So it looks like the final tally was much more than I thought. It was 100. Actually, really, it's 99 because I created this whole default one for platforms that didn't have one. So yeah, there's this pack. It's not really what we wanted, but it's something. They're all in 16:9 widescreen, converted from its original artwork to fit this size, to resemble what the console, or at least one of the variations of the console, would look like, or looked like. I haven't looked at this in a long time. I mean, it's a lot of good stuff. I 100% did post this somewhere. Can you guess where I posted it? Based on what I just said? The one that I remember making for this pack was... Is it here? This one. I made this one. That was my contribution. It is definitely on the forums, yeah. But can you find it on the forums? That's the question. That is my challenge to you, Folksborg. Yeah, to be honest, I don't remember how I made it. Probably just like Photoshop, purple rectangle. Probably took this from a clear logo pack to match, and then match the color of what I saw in an image. I probably grabbed this from an actual source, and then match the size. Stuff like that. And then I probably overlaid a box and then just used some pen tool or something to do this. And that's how I got this. Anyway, what were we actually talking about? We were talking about Android, right? Android came out, had a lot of really cool updates. We finally solved the scope storage issue, which total, to understand what the heck that even is, if on Android there's no scopes, there's no command line, like universal command line, where I can just be like, launch this emulator, send this file. They've got this behind the scenes Android command, ADB type of commands that are very restrictive. And so on like Android 11, they basically stopped one app from affecting another app by sending I mean, the main culprit for us was that we were no longer able to send a file path to a file. You do that, and the emulator would open up and say, like, I don't know where this is. And so Android created what they called the scope storage browser that allows users to provide permissions to a very specific folder on their drive that would then create very special new file paths that we could then use to send to the emulator. There was just a lot of problems with that. It wasn't so straightforward as that, unfortunately, but we got through it and implemented it in a way that I think is nice. The problem is that scope storage browser is quite inconvenient. You can't use a controller to use it, which is a problem for people that use controllers. And at this point, it's not even needed for most emulators. If emulators decided to bake in front-end support to begin with, it would not be required. And so the benefit is that it does fix some emulators that didn't bake in front-end support, and it makes them work. But the real benefit, I think, is that it also uncovers different parts of the operating systems that we didn't have access to before. That's what I hope will come. That'll be the benefit for like following updates, I think, now that we're at this stage. But this update is going to be pretty big for just emulator support, platform support, all that stuff. Just like balloons that up quite a bit and makes the app kind of more well-rounded. That's what this update will basically do. And so Beta 4 completes that work, and it's out for testing right now. Looks like it's been doing pretty good, solves a number of problems for people. We've got one more beta to come. So there's Beta 5, which will address known crash reports we've been getting in our crash reporting system. Right, so we'll work through some of those, and then we're basically ready for the release. So for everybody that's been kind of waiting for the Android release, I know Chunky's been waiting for that, although he's been up on the beta, so he's been enjoying it, I guess, along for the ride. But once that's out, we should be in a much better place to really take this app even further. On the Windows side, I don't remember if Beta 1 was out last Thursday. I assume it was. And I think Beta 1 addressed some problems that we were having. And it also put us in the app in a state that I believe I mentioned for the problem that we were having in Big Box. It kind of was able to uncover what people's actual problems were. I think a lot of people were muddying many problems into one, with basically saying, oh, Big Box is freezing. And this update basically forced a video playback engine that then was able to like organize what the problems actually were. For the most part, it solved a lot of the problems for people. It also showed us some other states that computers could be in that we could then solve. Beta 2, which is going to come out probably tomorrow, is going to kind of complete that work. And what we're going to find is that there'll be, well, I believe, okay, Josh on one of his streams was showing that, I'm really bad at writing while I'm talking here, aren't I? Was showing building an installer. And so that work is still ongoing, but isn't going to make this release. So what we did was we built this sort of hybrid installer, this like middle ground that will, for the most part, make it so you can go from the beginning to the end of the install process and not get bugged by any kind of UAC prompt for elevated access. The first time that you run it, it's going to have a lot of checks though. So like it's going to check for everything that we possibly could need, including we bundled in the K-Lite codec pack, which is great that that team allowed us to do that. It's going to check for a number of .NET dependencies, some that we weren't checking before, some that we were, and it's going to make sure that you have them. If you have them, it's just going to move on and finish the installation. And so after this first check, after this first update, if you're missing like the K-Lite codec pack, if you're missing any of the dependencies, if you're missing, for example, we'll even check if you actually have a Windows Media Player. For the most part, people should. It's actually built into Windows, but you do have the option to disable it. And if you have disabled it, the installation will silently enable it for you. And just to make sure everything's going to work. At the end of this installer, everything should work. And then subsequent updates, you shouldn't really be bugged about anything. It'll run the checks, it'll see that you have everything already, and then it just continues. And so by the end, we went from an installer that will check DirectX every single time, and we're gonna be in a place where you're not going to get prompted by anything. That's the end result. So I think that's a net positive, and it does a lot more at the same time. So that's going to come tomorrow in beta 2, along with a bunch of other fixes and stuff like that. I talked about the controller image pack in the past, which now, as of beta 2, should show you images of what those packs should look like. Here's the one that I made for the Legends Ultimate. If you have a Legends Ultimate cabinet, but here's like a PlayStation one, a Switch Pro looking one, and oh yeah, we're gonna have to add one for the Xbox One, which has always been the default that we've had. And then we'll probably have a video, trying to get a video together that's going to show all this new media management stuff, what it does, all the ins and outs, the secrets, the tips and tricks, the way that content creators can contribute to this as well. And over time, the goal is that there'll be lots of different controller input packs that you can choose from, and badges and clear logo packs. You know, more than these 6 or 8 or whatever we got here. Oh yeah, we've got these images are showing up. Depending on which pack you want, you'll get a little bit of an image that shows what that's going to look like if you download it and apply it. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I think platform icons is going to be the hardest one, but what's really cool about, I guess, all these sets, including platform icons, is that you could create a set of just like collection icons, or even if it was logos, like a collection or playlist set of clear logos, upload it, and for any image that you don't include in the set, it will automatically fall back to our default like nostalgia pack. So you don't need, as a content creator, to create an icon pack of every single icon for every single platform. You only, like, you could do that, but you could just create a pack that fills in the gaps for you, and maybe it'll fill in the gaps for somebody else too. So you could make it available, and if somebody downloaded that, they can definitely benefit from that. And Andrew, is there any link where you can download the latest Android beta app? Today, Samsung started to update to... Oh, it started updating to Android 15. Do you know which beta version you were using? Or were you just on like 117 or something like that? Okay, beta 3? Okay, that makes sense then. That makes sense. That's interesting. I'm going to get you a link. But in the meantime, it's possible that a restart solves your problem at least enough to start up and update. I've heard that much is true. But because you are here, let me see what I can do about a link for you. All right. All right, try that link. And I mean, you could do it that way as well. That's probably faster if you can just download that APK. And anybody else that wants to check out Beta 4. I mean, knowing that it's Beta 4, however, this is our release candidate. So we're basically almost at the end. There will be some more fixes, like I mentioned before. All right, back to my list here. Beta 1 is out. Beta 2 out tomorrow. All right, Joe, welcome in. If you use a custom partial image pack and the other images use the fallback, but the fallback had an uninstall button, does it uninstall and you lose your fallback? Okay, if it does have an uninstall button right now, it won't after the release. If that makes sense. Let's find out. So there is no uninstall button, at least on this build, which is more resembling Beta 2. But I think what will happen is that... So we're still going to allow free users to play around with this nostalgia pack. Right? Just like it is now, how you can, as a free user, you can change the clear logo if you wanted. You can still do that. In fact, the preferred method that we would want people to use is if you're still using somebody's pack and you're doing all this other stuff, I don't know, maybe you're using somebody's pack and it's falling back to the nostalgia pack and you're just like, I just don't like this one image here. So this screen will show you all of the different packs and any image that from any pack that you have installed right now, if no one's seen this window already. And the way that it works basically is as you're scrolling through it, it's going to tell you which of the images, so here, either for LaunchBox or Big Box, is the one currently active selected. From here you can click this button and you can change which pack you have active. Right? Maybe I wanted the dark one, or I'm noticing that I wanted to go back to the legacy pack or something. But let's say you didn't like any of those, but you still like the pack in general, and you just wanted to change this one image. You can still upload a clear logo image here. I don't really have an image. Here's a random image. And you could set it to the clear logo override. So that'll go into like this overrides folder that will just override for this one image while you're still using the pack that you like. I mean, that's one way you can do it. Probably the preferred way that you'd want to tell people. So I wanted to let you know the old SDL2 doesn't work well with RetroArch anymore. Interesting. So the nameless one, that would 100% be on RetroArch. We don't currently do anything with SDL2. And we wouldn't be able to do anything with that for RetroArch itself, right? So if that's true, I wonder what happened there. And which version that it got worse. Or is it that you got a new controller and that controller doesn't work well with whatever implementation RetroArch has? And Andrew, Beta 4 is working without restarting the device. Nice. Yeah, we figured as much. There was a problem that we found in other betas that we were fairly confident is causing that problem. And Necros, you're having nothing but responding and delay issues in Big Box. That's not good. I kind of wonder why. Do you have any leads on what could be that problem? I don't think we currently have any systemic or global issues in Big Box causing any kind of responding and delay issues, depending on what you mean by that. And so has anybody else seen this? So if Big Box is not closing when you exit through the menu, check and make sure that this might not be the problem, but you want to make sure that you have this setting off. So what we know happens is that Big Box closes and then it runs a set of backup checks, not even checks, of actual backup. And so it'll try to go into the data folder. It saves files to the data folder. Then it wraps all of the files up from the data folder, and then it copies it into the backups folder. Okay, if you want to take away the step that it copies to the backup folder, then you'll want to turn off this option here. The data backups automatically back up the LaunchBox XML data files. And so you remove that step and then you test again. If that's still happening, then the only other thing that we're doing is copying the data files from RAM into that data folder. And so if you're still having that problem, it means that that step is causing problems, which would lead me down the path of like file access, file permissions, something to do with files, right? Hard drive something, hard drive corruption, hard drive failures, not having the right access to copy the files in there, or the files that are in there are being locked by another application, or all those kind of scenarios. So you can check like, hey, is my LaunchBox in a cloud storage location. It's like another program trying to back up these files, locking them, and then when LaunchBox tries to come in and do something, it's messing up that step. And Big Box stopping when you respond during launch, that's definitely a tough one. The two things that come straight to my head would be to check the LaunchBox plugins folder as the first thing. So you want to go into this plugins folder here and make sure really you only have the default ones, which are all these ones named after, all these ones with integration in the name, and this one called GamesDB Discovery Lists. Anything else, I would move out of this folder for your tests. Okay, if that is not the problem, then that's an interesting one, right? You want to make sure you've got all the dependencies in there. Kind of also screams potentially a file issue as well, like file corruption or something. You delete it and reinstall it 5 times. Another test that you should probably do if you have the capability is to test it on another computer. Because it kind of sounds like it might be hardware related. Or computer specific related, operating system, hard drive format, like something to do with that, your specific computer configuration. And if you wanted to rule that out, you'd do it on another computer. You say, am I getting the same results on this other computer? I don't know how to prove to you that other people are not getting that results. I mean, I guess I can launch Big Box, but you'll want to do that. To kind of gives you the direction that you can go next for troubleshooting. Well, first find out whether it is. Right? First, like, don't go down that path, because that's a hard path to go down if it is that. But like if like another computer, here's something that I can show you guys. All right, here's something that I've been testing myself. So here's a virtual machine, and I don't know if I have to restore it, but I'm going to restore to this state. Now this state is basically like the greenest version of Windows 10. Like I literally just installed Windows 10 and didn't run any updates and didn't really do anything other than uninstalled Windows Media Player under Windows Features. This is basically what I did. Now this virtual machine is not going to be running fast. This is a slow virtual machine. I'm doing a lot here on my computer, and I'm hoping that I'm not going to break this stream while I do this. But this virtual machine is going to run very, very slowly and probably cause some glitches to the stream a little bit, but we're going to do it anyway. So I basically came into this turn Windows features on or off thing, and I unchecked the media features here, which got rid of Windows Media Player. That's all I did, just to get you guys on a base of what this machine is at. All right, so I've got this installer, which represents what Beta 2 will eventually look like when you run the setup file. It's missing almost everything from beta 2, but the setup file will be similar. And we're going to run it live on the stream just to give you an idea. This is going to take a good amount of time because enabling Windows Media Player takes like 4 minutes. But we can do this as a test. I can show you guys what it would look like to run this new installer. Yeah, the more you're saying Necros, the more it kind of sounds like it's pointing to, some sort of hardware thing. Doesn't mean that it's the hardware itself. It could be drivers or something like that. So you can see in this install, because it's a completely green version of Windows 10, the first thing it's got to do is install this C++ redistributables, and it's going to ask me to do that. It's doing that because we do have, I think, some third-party stuff that uses it. This is definitely taking all of my system resources right here to do this. Yeah, so in this test, as we go through it, I can use it as two things. One, I can showcase what this it's okay, Necros. With this test, I can show what's coming, what the new kind of setup file is going to look like. The setup process is going to look like, I should say. And two, we can show you what Big Box will look like even on a VM machine that's struggling to keep up. I could definitely use some more RAM. I could definitely use 64 gigs of RAM for testing all these VM environments. Beta 2 should be out tomorrow. And yeah, do what Mr. Nibble's saying there. Turn on logs while you're doing that. Create a video. Attach, if you have a feature-based ticket, attach it to the ticket, and that should definitely help. There's a setting under the LaunchBox options. I think it's just called debugging under general debugging, and you just check that on if it's not already. And then the log files will save under just the LaunchBox logs folder, and they'll be date stamped, so you'll have an idea of which one is what. All right, this is the new thing. So basically, the installer ran a check, realized I did not have Klite Codec Pack installed, and of course, one of the requirements to have Klite Codec Pack in our build is that we need to ask the user if they want to install it. So this is our attempt at asking the user to install it. So I'm going to hit install. There we go. Oh, everything that you mentioned, Necros, just sounds like, oh, it's like a files thing. It's like, oh no. I hope it's not, for your sake, that it's like a files thing. But if you're talking like files, like processes are breaking, and the things that are required to like write to something or read from something, and those are the things that are taking a long time for you throughout the application. Oh, I really hope it's not a hardware thing. I'm kind of crossing my fingers that it's just like a file, like, locking type of thing. It interacts with Windows in all the normal ways, except think of LaunchBox as like the most intensive program, more than probably any other program that you have, that deals with many files and many like read and writes, due to all the media that needs to be downloaded, all the media that needs to be read, all the settings files, just like tons and tons of parsing of settings files and that sort of thing. If you got like a file locking problem going on, that's not going to be good. All right, so what have we seen if anybody was actually watching the screen? I pressed the install button and it installed the K-Lite codec pack, in the background. It noticed that I didn't have .NET Core 3.1 installed, and it installed that. And then it's now doing the installing or enabling of Windows Media Player, which this is the part that takes a very long time. So we're going to be here for a little while. I kind of feel like it's not a Windows thing. I mean, everything's a Windows thing. You're in Windows. But Windows is interacting with all this stuff, trying to make things kind of work. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's why instead of focusing on that environment, yeah, I guess if you don't have another environment, you can't do this. But by focusing on another environment and running a test on like another computer somewhere or a VM even, you can kind of get a sense for a direction of what might be the problem. You won't know what the problem is, but you'll get a sense of the direction that you have to kind of focus on. We'll figure that out first. And if, let's say, okay, so steps are, okay, you did it. Hey, it's like working so much better. Then the next step would be looking at that computer that you have. I would probably rule out piece by piece a specific piece of hardware. The first one that's probably the easiest to rule out is like a hard drive. So if you had more than one hard drive in that computer, what I would do is I would be installing LaunchBox on different pieces of, on different hard drives that have different file formats. So you got a lot of hard drives and a lot of situations. Kind of wondering, are any of them formatted or connected or rated or something? Like, I mean, you got a lot of hard drives there. Are they in some format? Are they striped or like dynamically placed together, like two hard drives into one, combined into one kind of thing? The only hard drive where you can't rule out, yeah, NTFS, so that's good. The only hard drive you can't rule out is the one that has Windows on it. And CBeats is right there. But if, like you're saying, this is a brand new computer where you don't have any of that stuff, you don't feel like you have any of that stuff. Windows does come with OneDrive. So if you're installing it in a place where OneDrive is trying to take control of it, that could be your problem. Remember, like, anything that could lock files or trying to access the same files. All right, so we're in this environment, and to be honest, I don't really have a way to import games here easily. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to fake it. just to get to a situation where and I'm just going to say that they're in the Windows platform. We're not going to download anything, any media. What are the different places that you attempted to put LaunchBox? Or did you choose the same location each time? All, like, would you say 5 different times? Yeah, but what were the locations? And which installer file did you use to install LaunchBox? An Astro Bob. I went in with the background music. I didn't realize anybody could hear it. All right, I've got some games. Let's open up Big Box and see what happens there. I don't have a license, but I can start the trial. And for people that have a license that don't realize, we do have a trial, and the trial is an unlimited trial of 30-minute sessions. Okay, so that's a good enough variety for me to come to some sort of, I wouldn't say conclusion, but it's pointing heavily in the direction that it's not something inside of LaunchBox. I mean, you got 12.20 all the way to 13.20. A lot changed between those. And if they're acting exactly the same way, the only thing that didn't change between those is that they both require a lot of file writing and reading. Oh, okay. 1320, 1319, 1318. So between those, it's not as much of a difference. So you could go grab like an older one, but it's enough of a difference that we changed some of the systemic things in LaunchBox. And if both like 13.18 and 13.20 is doing the same exact thing, it does point a little bit in the direction that, I mean, we've already kind of established the same thing anyway, but you can see it's not really a thing that LaunchBox can like program towards, I guess. Right, Mr. Nibble? Loom setup file. Look at that. What can we do with it? We can star rate it. What would you give it as a star rating? Well, let's call it average. I'm going to call it average. There you go. 2.5. Oh my god, you're too generous with your Loom setup star rating. You can kind of see here in this VM, I'm assuming, even though this is real slow, utilizing 8 gigs of RAM of my physical RAM pool. It's not terrible. It booted up pretty fast. And so if you run the same kind of test, yes, he beats. Anyway, I just wanted to go through that process. A little bit, and I hope Necros that like I'm really hoping that it's not like a big hardware problem, even if it kind of points you in that direction based on testing our launcher from other computers or a VM environment or something like I'm doing here, where like it really should take you this long. Tools, options, and there's the options menu. That's how long it should take for you to open up the options menu. And not quite. That's the misconception there. There's no application, gaming, especially gaming. Gaming does not do anything with writing files while you're using them. If it did, it would cause a lot of problems. There's already, like, bare minimum what gaming does is it saves a save file. And even that can become corrupted in certain situations. People have come across. That's it. LaunchBox is more like if you were opened up Photoshop and you opened up 100,000 images and then you tried to save them. That would be more of a scenario of what LaunchBox is trying to do. Now, in your case, it's only doing it for 3 games. And it's only doing it, let's say, the base minimum of what LaunchBox is doing. Well, turn off the backups, because we are trying to back up files. So that's the one thing that LaunchBox does to, look at the bare minimum. You open up LaunchBox, it's trying to back up those files into this backups folder. You can see it's already done a bunch since I installed it just a little while back. The other thing that it does is it creates symlinks, but you said you're already on NTFS and it shouldn't cause a problem to create symlinks. said it imported some games, so it's scanning the 3 games that are on your computer in like the registry. It's checking, I don't know if you had Steam games, maybe if it was Steam games, it's looking at a few places for Steam games, bringing in some images for those Steam games. Okay, so it runs an import based on the files that you see. It runs a media download. It runs, a scan. It downloads some files in the background when you do that. Most of everything else is files. Just lots and lots of file stuff happening all over LaunchBox. LaunchBox does use .NET, but it builds in its own .NET for the most part. But like the installer part, if you were having a problem with .NET, you most likely would not be able to open LaunchBox. It's a little more confusing than that. So LaunchBox itself as a program builds in .NET. It's self-contained. But there's a lot of third-party programs that we use inside of LaunchBox that requires other versions of .NET. For example, Chromium stuff that we use requires .NET Core 3.1. And there's some old third-party projects that require C++. All the stuff you would have. And if you didn't, it wouldn't cause slowdowns. It would probably cause crashes. Yeah, so if you're in LaunchBox and you're running tools options and it ain't opening like this, and this is on a brand new build in a brand new location, you didn't bring files with you. You didn't. When you ran the installer, but when you tested on other locations, did you just copy your LaunchBox folder to the other locations, or did you install it from scratch in all of those locations and you didn't bring any files with you or copy and paste anything? So there's 2 ways that people can test. I know that test. I want to just confirm. You took an installer and you ran it each and every time to a brand new location on all of your different hard drives. Each test started from that beginning base point. I want to make sure what you didn't do was that you installed it once. Here's the LaunchBox folder, and now I'm going to make a copy of this LaunchBox folder and put it on my other hard drives. And then run this LaunchBox folder from another place on my computer. Okay, ignore every single test that you did by copying your existing, or even installing a setup file to an existing location. Ignore those tests. Because what you're doing is you're skewing the results because you're using the exact same problematic files potentially, and that could cause a problem, right? Because I've seen before people accidentally somehow in some way manage to get theme files in the wrong theme location, right? I've seen somebody take like a big box theme and install it as a LaunchBox theme, or take a LaunchBox theme and install it as a big box theme and then try to load it, and that caused problems. I don't think that's what you're running into. That's just an example. But the idea is you don't you don't want to skew your test results by using existing files. You always in all your tests want to start with like the same beginning, which is setup file, run the setup file into a location. Don't install LaunchBox in the root of a drive. I've seen that as a problem. I don't think you're doing that, but it's a good reminder not to do that. Don't install any program in the root of a drive. It probably won't be that stable. And make sure that the location that you're installing LaunchBox to, you're not running as an administrator. Don't run LaunchBox setup file as an administrator, and don't launch LaunchBox itself or BigBox as an administrator. That could cause problems too. But then you also want to make sure that the location that you've installed it, you have full permissions, and that you have so you do run everything on other drives, which is fine. You just want to make sure it's in a folder, and that folder is called LaunchBox. I don't think it has to be called LaunchBox, but you just want to make sure that it's in a folder. And that folder is called something. I would do like a basic name. I mean, I would just do LaunchBox for your tests. Yeah, and what's CBeat's saying? You don't want to install it you don't want to install it in a D drive on the root. There's where your launchbox.exe is. Now, is any of that stuff maybe causing a problem? I don't think so, but it's all good stuff to hear. Good. There is stuff that you can try. Know that the way that LaunchBox interacts with Windows is mostly related to files. Lots and lots of files, reading and writing files, reading and writing more files, and more, and like much more than anybody thinks. Always try a different 3 games. I don't think it has anything to do with anything, but you never know. Alright, at least you could see you have something that you can test with and come back with. You can rate videos and put those in their log files as well. And that potentially could help. I'm going to shut down this virtual machine. Yeah, I don't think it has anything related to the games. All the other stuff we talked about, probably more likely. So if I had to summarize, try installing it on a different environment. Try looking for anything related to file permissions, other programs accessing files, anything to do with files, file ownership. And whenever you're trying to run the test, always start from the installer into a brand new location that didn't exist before. 100% of virtual machine is considered a different environment. Unless it's such a bad hard drive thing, which I don't think it is, unless your hardware is completely dying that the same problem is showing itself in the VM as well. All right, so if you wanted like the 100% pure test, you would use a different computer. But if you don't have one, then you do this. Yeah. It's hard to be 100% certain about that, though. We're only as good as what the programs are willing to tell us. I know I had a hard drive failure. I think I even streamed about it, like the day after my hard drive failed. And the day before that, that hard drive was like fine. It was fine. Oh, yeah. You're only as good as what these programs are programmed to tell us. So basically all I'm saying is, yeah, it's probably true. But the only real 100% scenario of testing, if you wanted to like really bake it down, is to use a completely different environment. If you don't have that, VMs are kind of the next best thing. There's many different ways die-cast beatdown. It depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, I can think of a scenario, but tell me your exact scenario, and then I can do that for you on the stream. Is there a very specific platform you're talking about for this? Sure. I mean, the problem with LaunchBox is that there's many different ways you can accomplish that. Let's do an example here. All right, so these games are now not in LaunchBox. All right, so technically, I have some games that are not in LaunchBox that I want to add to LaunchBox. What are the ways that I can accomplish this? The way that I'd recommend, I can think of like 5 different ways off the top of my head. The way that I would recommend this is with if you have automated ROM imports. And if I go to the games folder, so I don't even know which one that I deleted. Let's see. Anything below Super Volleyball is no longer in. All right, so we're in this scenario where I don't have these games in the folder, and you're saying if I'm adding games to a new ROM into this my TurboGrafx 16 folder, Necros, I wish I could say do this, do that. But what that will do is it'll point you in the direction of the computer, and then you will start having to run more tests. And all you really know is, all you can really do in that sense is start isolating as best you can. Yeah, that's one thing that you could do, although that's a nuclear approach, is to run a brand new Windows install. Right, so that approach would rule out Windows as the potential culprit. Like, or you're ruling out specific pieces of hardware, which really you don't have full access to unless you had completely different pieces of hardware to replace it with. I'm assuming the only thing you really can do is isolate from a hard drive perspective, right? You would have the ability to like unplug all of your hard drives except for your Windows one, and then, you know, install it on the Windows one. Okay, now you've ruled out that these hard drives kind of don't play a role. Right, Focusborg, we just do the Linux. Then all we would have is Linux troubleshooting streams. All right, open up LaunchBox. Haven't forgot about you, Diecast Beatdown. And for what the settings that you saw me run, I gave it 8 gigs of RAM and like 4 cores. And just a brand new hard drive. Very moderate. All right. So let's reenact the scenario of I got these new ROMs. I have this folder and I'm placing them in here. There they are. All the way from taking it to the hoop to Yo Bro. Has anybody played that game, Yo Bro? Okay, what should happen if you have automated imports? And I guess I should have made sure that I didn't disable it in a test or anything like that. Looks good. I also probably should have checked which branch I'm in, because this is not one that this is a completely test branch. I hope I didn't break it. But what should happen is it should recognize that the folder has new files, and in the background it starts comparing what the new files are. I'm just checking that it's checking the correct folder. It is not checking the correct folder. That's fun. Wait, does that mean I have... Oh, I know what I did. We used the one platform that I was testing on before. Yeah, that's the correct folder now. You only played Yo Noid? That's not Yo... What did I say? Yo Bro? Okay, now that I changed that folder, I'm trying to remember if I have to do anything about that. Could have just used a different platform for you. But yeah, what should happen probably in your build is that you place the files and LaunchBox will just import those games. That's one way you can do it. There is another way you can do it. The old way that you would do it is you would simply run the import again. You add the same folder, right? So I can go here and I can add the NEC TurboGrafx 16 folder. And by the end of the wizard, what's important to know is that as long as you don't have this force importing duplicate games setting on, it will only find the difference. It's going to do a scan. It's going to find the difference for you. Oh, it thinks that I have the games installed maybe. Let's make sure. Or I could just be on a really weird build. Wait, did it already install the games and I wasn't looking? Oh, I deleted them. I 100% deleted them. Oh, I might have them somewhere else in this test build. Oh, you chose the platform that I probably used to test on so much. All right, let's choose a different platform. Yeah. Yeah. That's the culprit right there. Anyway, no, I keep using the same platform for my tests, so this build's like all messed up. Okay, so now that that's solved, then if you don't want to wait for that, then you could just run through this, whether it be in this wizard or a drag and drop wizard. Yeah, LaunchBox is doing stuff that makes sense. You just have to understand how it's making sense. I had those games already installed somewhere else, and therefore it won't allow me to import those same games again. So I'm like trying to find a difference for games that I have somewhere else. There we go. So those are the difference, right? It's only 21 games that I deleted earlier. It's not going to import every single game again. And then you just hit finish, and then that's how you could do it yourself. Oh, ED. At least you're only halfway late to the party. You did miss the new installer test that we went through. And there you go. That's how you can manually do it fairly quickly. What would be worse if there was just like a generalized, just scan everything for all new things. That's basically what the automatic import does. And that process, I mean, takes a while because you have to scan everything and run the compare on everything instead of this kind of like direct target to that platform that you're actually wanting to add games for. Oh, Focusborg. What you did was you came late one too many times. I think that's what happened. It's definitely not done that often. The automated imports is basically our attempt at that, right? So instead of having to manually right click and do update, it will just do it for you. It does that right click update for you. The problem is this. For the most part, we would like to think that everybody's ROM folders are created equally. We would like to think that you only have one place where you store your TurboGrafx-16 folders, and that we have that place on file, right? So all of our scans are based on the game folder path. And we like to think that that path is correct in your settings. And what we found is all of that is just not true. People have their folders in many different states. They have them 2, 3, 4 different places where they've got the same like ROMs for the same platform, and or the folder that they have doesn't just have their games. It has got other things. It's got save files and media and XML files and all sorts of stuff and video files all wrapped into one folder. And it just or their settings here are just not correct at all. And so if any of these things are just out of place, then this kind of scan thing that we're talking about doesn't really work. Which is what people really, really wanted us to know when we created the automated import system. When the automated import system works, we did want to make it a custom schedule, but for the most part, as long as everything's working and it's monitoring it properly, it's fairly instant. Like, it finds it almost instantly, those changes. But there are some platforms that are exempt right now. And so if you're trying to do, that's why I wanted to know your exact specific scenario. Because like anything related to arcade, anything related to any platforms where the games came from a MAME set, which are quite a lot of them. Not just arcade, but any of the Naomis and the Thomas Waves and the Model 1 and 2 and 3 and SNK, Neo Geos, and there's probably like 10 to 20 of them. Those are exempt from the arcade import feature. Sorry, I said arcade import feature. Automated import feature. So you're going to have to run the steps that I went through there. Also, anything the Windows platform is exempt. I think that actually might be it. I think everything else should be fine. It's also the preferred way to do something like Sony PlayStation 3 and Sony PlayStation Vita, which has completely different methods to import your games. Those ones are reliant on the emulator itself due to the way that the emulator works. You first install the games into the emulator, and then you add the emulator LaunchBox, and then we import based on what the emulator is telling us that you've imported. And then when that happens, we don't have to point to a file. I think, what do we point to? Yeah, we basically point to this folder. And I believe we use that code to launch the game into the emulator. And there's other weird things like that. Very, very platform specific. Anyway, what were we talking about, Focusborg? We were saying that Windows Beta 1 is out, and that Beta 2 is hopefully out tomorrow. Okay. I think that's enough of a hour and a half rendition of behind the scenes. And we can jump into, since we only have some time left. We have enough time. Yeah. So you seem very excited to talk about a number of these topics. I'm going to list them out, and you guys can decide what we want to talk about here. here's a bunch of potential feature items that we might want to lay out. One is called a welcome wizard. What would that look like? Right now, LaunchBox just pops you into its interface, kind of like every other program. Is there a way to make that process better? What would we do in a process like that? What are the things that you think people would want to focus on to get them up and running as quickly as possible? Or what would they want? What do you think they would want to know about that LaunchBox can do? The other thing, Game Discovery Center. What would this look like in LaunchBox? What are the things that you'd want to see? What are the stats? What is the layout that you would want? Would it be identical to what we have on Big Box? Is it just like a list of lists where people can discover their games? Or could it be more? Could it be like more like a dashboard? Could it be a modular dashboard of stats, or of, maybe it shows you an activity log of what you've done in LaunchBox. Maybe it shows you achievements that you've earned. Maybe it shows you playtime, games that you've played over the last month or year or week. What would you want if they, in a situation like that? And the third topic that we can talk about is Big Box. A new view in Big Box. No, that's not what this topic is. New features in Big Box. Specifically, talking about, what would a hybrid view look like? What would you want to see from, right now, the way that Big Box works is that it's very systemic. It's got a platform view of a list of platforms, then you enter into another view of games. And you got a game list, game platform. What if we said, how about we just have one view, and that view is both platforms and games? How would we want that to function? What would people want to see there to make that type of situation beneficial for them? And the second feature is, if we wanted to improve our marquee features, are you a marquee user? What kind of marquee features are missing inside of our current marquee implementation that you would want to see personally? And so out of those 4 subjects, to make this easier, I'm going to say Big Box hybrid view or Big Box marquee features. Feature enhancement. There, four features. Which one do we talk about first? I know which one, Astrobob. I know which one you want to talk about first. I think we got 1 vote for the Game Discovery Center and LaunchBox. Target one of the screens people put into their PC case. What kind of screens do they put into the PC case? Is like an LED, like a ticker type of thing? Or is it an actual screen? that Windows sees as an actual screen, which is really tiny. All right, we got two that want to talk about the Game Discovery Center in LaunchBox. So it's just like an LED ticker type of thing, like it's not an actual screen that shows up in Windows as a monitor. Interesting. Okay, so you're saying it is an actual screen. Height PC case. We're gonna go down this rabbit hole, aren't we? Thank you, Focus Work. Why would you want that? Interesting. And ED, explain. Why do you think it's not necessary for you? Is it that you don't play games? You just look at your collection? Or is it like you're not really looking at discovering anything? You feel like your knowledge base is high enough that nothing can surprise you? Although you did say cool idea to what Astrobob said. And some of what he's saying, in some extent, is available in the Game Discovery Center right now, which we can talk about. Not his full idea. But maybe that's... Okay, so we'll start there. We're ignoring the marquee feature. We'll do that in a bit. Oh, you have a very tiny amount. How many games do you have? Is it like 300? So that makes sense. Hey, you guys both said Game Discovery Center first. I'm really going to test this build out. I think I'm on a very old test build. I should have rebuilt on a newer build before I did this stream, but I think maybe the Game Discovery Center... I guess that's a good question, Edie. What would make like a new LaunchBox home screen appeal to you? What kind of features would you need in there to be... while my test build catches up to itself? So Diecast Beatdown, really like how the community votes are included in LaunchBox and use that a lot. Find new games. That's cool. Do you use something like the related games feature to find new games? Yeah, the star ratings. So let's say this Game Discovery Center has pieces of what the big box one has as a starting point. And so that would be, if we're treating them as like modules, let's say we have like a continue playing module, and that shows you games that you've recently played in a list. Maybe it shows you how long you were playing them. It just gives you a list that's consistently updated to help you go back to where you were in the game that you were playing. So there's one thing that it does. Maybe there's another module, and that one's called recommended games. And that's another list that does some magical rule-based weights and determines a set of games that you might not have played or might not have played recently, but it matches the types of games that you like to play. It gives you a list like that. Let's think. Maybe there's a module that shows you your playtime. So it lists it's like a calendar type of thing or a list type of thing, and it's showing you games that you've played, showing games played during a week / month period or year period, and it kind of gives you like a with some sort of graphs involved, something like that. All right, let's keep going. In Snarfu, you have a little system monitoring screen in your home office. You usually run LaunchBox on your HTPC and on your dedicated arcade setup. Neither of those would benefit from adding an extra screen. Yeah, so you're in a position that that's the thing about a marquee feature, right? It's useful for 0% of people unless you have the hardware to back it up. It's not like an optional thing. You either have the hardware and you kind of want it, or you don't have the hardware and then there's like 0% of those people are going to use it. And Focusborg. So a splash screen would include a splash screen. So like let's call it a home screen, would include a few suggestions of games in your set. Okay, so you would want like a module that will suggest games, like the recommended games module. And you would want a module that has news. Scene news. Okay, and a widget, and so like a module showing emulators requiring updates. That's a good one. Would you go so far as saying like themes or packs or something that also require updates? Would you want something like that? Like, would you care? Let's say you're using, I don't know who uses this theme, but let's say you're using the Omni theme, for example, and you have a little widget, and that widget's like, ding, there's like an update to the Omni theme. That you might want information on. All right, and just so that we're all on the same page, let's assume that we live in a world where these modules are customizable and the layout is also modular. So you can like pick and choose which one you want to use, and you can pick and choose where they get placed. Kind of like phone home screen or something like that, right? And Nogarth, welcome in with a Prime sub. Thank you very much. I mean, if you guys are looking at my screen, I'm going to make this bigger. So far, we've got continue playing module, which is similar to like here. So we've got this recommended games one at the top here. We've got this continue playing, so you can see that I played Aryan Mission 1942 and Viper Phase 1. You can see that we have a recently added one. So this would be probably better for people that have the automated imports thing going and you're doing that with storefronts. And Diecast B Count, see, World Court Tennis is your favorite TG16 game. Now remember, the reason why there's all these TurboGrafx 16 games here is because we just imported them. And so this list recognized that it just imported, these are recently added games, and has now displayed them in this list automatically. That's why these ones exist here. All right, so Diecast Beatdown, what we're kind of like asking for is, what if we could take this concept? What would that concept look like on LaunchBox? And Darkfell, I think you had a good one here. Let me write that down. What about top-rated games by the community? I like that one. Would that be possible, and having filters to sort based on genre or a platform? So like in that list, let's say the list was like super long, hundreds and hundreds of games that the community recommends. And you're saying filter this list by genres or platforms, etc. And Nogarth, you just came across LaunchBox from EXO, but you're originally from Hyperspin, helping with a lot of the database back in the day. Oh, nice. Oh, welcome in. And LaunchBox is your go-to now. That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, so hopefully you can be part of this conversation. What we're looking at, I don't know if you're familiar with the Game Discovery Center. All right, here's a list of platforms. That's probably not so interesting. What's interesting about your request, Darkfellow, is that we have a list that is essentially the top rated games by the community, and it shows up randomly in this game discovery list of lists. So this one's is a random selection of any game that you favorited in your library. It's just like every time you load LaunchBox, it will take all of the games that you favorited in your library and then like randomly select a bunch, 25 of them, and display them in this list. This list, which is a little different, and the reason why it doesn't have any graphics is because I imported like 3 different arcade sets for testing and decided not to download any media on my test build. But it's any game that is flagged to have high scores, randomizes that list, picks 25 of them, and then displays them on the screen. Necros, yeah. I wish I could help you more with that build, or at least get you closer. If you just live next door, maybe you just come by and then show me your computer. So other things that we have in the Game Discovery Center are the concepts of dynamic lists based on specific rules. Oh, you're in LA. That's not close to me. And those dynamic rules are... I'm going to forget some of them, but it kind of goes like this. We have worst of, best of, and explore. It basically shows games that are rated really bad, games that are rated really good, and a random selection of games would be explore. And then, based off of those concepts, maybe I'll do it like this. We have another set of what those like variables that could be used. In this case, we've got like eras, like the 80s, 90s, 2000s kind of thing. We've got genres. So just like randomly looks at your library and goes, oh, you've got these genres. Let's choose adventure. So it would be like worst of the adventure genre. Adventure games. It's got publishers and potentially developers. And I think it has combinations of the two. So like you could see, actually we should put year. So like a very specific year, 1995 or something like that, for example. But then it could have combinations of like best of adventure from 1995. There's no genre debate this time. We got other things to worry about, Focusborg. Yeah, right, Seabeats. Just a few thousand miles apart. Just walk over. It'll just take you a few months. Oh, nice, Nogarth. That would be awesome. I'm sure all Sam... I don't even know how to pronounce it. Is it coupe? I'm sure a lot of the people that are fans of that computer system would love that if you did that. So everybody should just be using Seabeat's genre information. I'm probably missing some, but you have that idea where we have this set of dynamic playlists that will get generated each time and display like a list based on all of these things that could interest you, and it's dynamically generated. So that could be considered like its own module, its own thing that you could add or remove. You've got this one that you see on the screen at the bottom there called Feeling Lucky. That's literally just a random set of games. So if you were just like curious, you just every time that you open up. So if I went out and I opened up the Game Discovery again, which I won't do, this list would just generate another random set of 25 games, I believe. So here's a new one. So like one, if you're an achievement fan, whether I think it's a retro achievement or Windows, any storefront achievements that we support, this will display basically games with achievements. I believe there's some different states like best of, worst of, Explorer. I think it's in that same vein. But it will display a list of games that have achievements, or we could even throw in list of games that has achievements that you've recently played or something like that. You can see all these random ones. Best of puzzle drop. Worst of role playing. Like, who would ever play Fort Triumph? Dungeons and Dragons Heroes of the Lance. I was a big fan of this book series growing up. But yeah, the game does kind of suck. Let's see, I know we have other kinds of lists in here. Here we go. So here is a module that could basically be, because you recently did something with game X, here is other games similar. So this would be similar game lists, right? So randomly here says, because you recently played Fable 2, or it could say, because you favorited Fable 2. I can't remember what all the other states, but we've got potential modules like that we could display in LaunchBox. Oh no, Garth. So we do have rating system. That is another question altogether. I'm going to write that one down because eventually I want to talk about that. The age rating system discussion. We will have that. It's on the list. We'll talk about it in a bit. But the short answer is yes, there's a field for a rating system and you can manually fill it out. You can go on the game's database and fill that information out. There are problems with it, which we will discuss. It could be better. And that AD&D game reminded you of recently discovering the CRPG book PDF and reading through it. Nice. Yeah, so many good games. If people are not familiar with the Dragonlance series, I do recommend, and you're a big fantasy book reader, that is definitely a good one to read. Actually, I think it's a set of I'm going to say 12 or 14 books, all following the same kind of cast of characters-ish. That's right, Focusborg. That's a possibility. It could be a module that, because you spent millions of hours being stuck in the first level of Lemmings, here's Sesame Street games. It wouldn't be anything like that. But maybe, if you want it. Well, no, Garth. And just a little hint of what I want to talk about. The problem is two things. The first one is there are too many rating systems in the world. Right? The count is astronomical. But then the problem with including all those rating systems is that there's no one rating system, or even if you combined all the rating systems together, there's not one that covers every game. So how can you use that data as a way to filter games when you know 100% it doesn't cover every game in your library? And how do you solve that problem? right? Is the database trying to curate accurate information, right? If it wasn't rated by the PEGI system, you can't give it a PEGI rating. But you kind of know in your heart that it's PEGI rating, X or whatever. So you just kind of manually do it. But that goes against the database because the database is trying to save that, like what it actually was rated. So now for all these games, just that field goes blank because it wasn't rated by whatever rating system we decide to add. And then how do you build features based off of rating systems we know are incomplete? Astro Bob, you really like the background music, eh? All right, here's the one I was talking about right here. LaunchBox community favorites. So this is a list of games recommended by the community. The problem with this list is that it was recommended by the community in... How long did we give, Astro Bob? We went on the forums and we basically asked people on the forums, what are your favorite top 5 games? And we did it for maybe a month? No, I'm wrong. 1 week. And we collected all the games and made a list out of them. And so this list will take all of those games and randomly select 25 out of those and display them. So these games were recommended by the community during a 1 week period on the forums. Or maybe 2 weeks, I don't know. Some sort of time period. And so this could be, I don't think we have an automated way of doing it, but we could continuously be polling the community for more of their top recommended games, and this list could keep growing and growing and keep growing as much as we really want it to grow. But that's a specific list. There's Because You Liked Parasite Eve on the Sony PlayStation. It's now giving me a recommendation of the Parasite Eve 2. Guess that makes sense. Anybody want to play the worst of the 70s? Ooh, arcade golf. It's gonna be a lot of arcade games, isn't it? At least it's not Parasite Eve 3. That's an interesting game. I always loved those vectorized in space games. Has anybody ever played this game? Is he trying to catch them? Alright, now I have no idea what's going on. I feel like you're trying to catch them in your hole. And everyone that you catch, you get a point. Oh, it looks like it's just a countdown. There's catch as many in a specific amount of time. And I'm guessing that this means the game's over. Nice. All right. We don't have another one. What the LaunchBox team is playing. We definitely got to update this list, Astrobob. I'm always playing this game. This game always mesmerized me. I wasn't like a huge wrestling fan. Oh, there was a time where I was, but as a kid, but I would go to like the local cinema and they would have this game front and center for some reason, and I would just stand right in front of it with no money, just staring at it, doing its thing. We can explore games published by Screen 7. Oh, here's a... We also have custom lists that we've made inside of the LaunchBox team basically just makes. And one of them is this one. Mario makes an appearance. It's just like a list of games where Mario is in it in some capacity, even if it's so little. Maybe he's just a statue in this game. I don't know. The Forgotten Ones is also, I think, a list of hidden gems kind of thing. Yeah, WrestleFest. I really like that one. We've got... So there's a lot of, let's say, custom lists, modules, like the ones that we just saw. We've got monthly lists of recommended games, that sort of thing. That will just randomly appear in these lists. I forgot to mention that in this, we're also doing platforms. It's be like worst of, like you saw, the Sega 32X. Best of the Sega Dreamcast. Here's the Cozy Nights In list, which comes, which is a custom list that was created. I'm going to call this custom discovery lists. I think I've covered most of the types of lists that can appear. I just want to blow stuff up. There's a hidden gem series of lists for adventure games. No, Garth, we actually thought about that a lot. And there used to be a way to update from the database, but what we found was that when you make it too easy, depending on the way, because we could still do it. The problem is we would have to develop a way where people know exactly what they are sending in. If you know what I mean. And they're not setting in, before there used to be a way where you could like right click a game and, you know, send it all to the database. And it flooded the moderation queue with a ton of just redundant requests, duplicate requests, requests that don't make any sense. Like, where they're trying to upload an image that already exists or something like that, where there was no... it was too easy to get them on the database queue without the person doing it needing to actually do any work to do that. And because of that, it made it unmanageable. And so you can easily become a moderator. I think you just have to send in a bunch of changes and have them approved. After a specific amount of changes, you become a moderator. And then you see the moderation queue, and you'll see that it's like it's usually hovering in the hundreds of stuff waiting for moderation. Like right now, oh god, it's actually pretty high. It's at about 700 items are in the moderation queue. It's just waiting for people to yay or nay the changes. And then there's a specific rules on what it would take to get something through. For the most part, I think it's 3 more people need to approve it than reject it. Cool. An Astrobob, it does sound like potentially an Easter themed playlist is required. And the real Solly for life, there is a conflict with Big Box and the Nahimic service. Yes, actually not just Big Box. Both LaunchBox and Big Box. It's not actually just LaunchBox and Big Box. It's any program made with WPF and that service. Which, unless something's changed, is like a driver. It's a program that was installed by certain OEMs for that basically installs audio drivers that has a program front end that you can control. Something like that. You don't actually need Nahimic service to run the audio driver, but it provides some benefits. Are you the one that wants Nahimic service on your computer? Interesting to hear that you're not seeing any glitches. Maybe they finally solved that problem. But man, that used to be a headache. Which is why you see that alert. If you have Nahimic service, we will tell you you have this and it can cause problems. Well, ED, if you don't want to see that, get rid of Nahimic. It is not specific, like it's not a Microsoft thing. It's not something like it's a very specific software you do not need. That's interesting. I think I heard there's like one guy that I heard who was like, I like what Nahimic's doing. Like out of the thousands of people. Oh, I really like this this software that I got. And hey, if you like that software, then great. We were not the only program affected by it. I mean, if you just Google Nahimic service, you'll get a lot of results. from people having problems with it. But it's good to see that if it's still around, that there was some fix for it. That's good to see. But yeah, it used to make the wheels glitch out, disappear. In LaunchBox, it used to make text just like not appear or appear in like a weird blocky way. You weren't unable to read. It did a whole bunch of weird stuff. Is there any reason you don't just get rid of it? Like, are you needing it for other things? Like, or at the very least, just keep it disabled, the service, if you don't want to get rid of the service. Anyway, and as you answer that, back to here. Anybody else think of anything that they want to add to this whole new potential home screen of LaunchBox that you would want to see? So far, I've got continue playing, recommended games of some kind, some sort of playtime graph chart thing. I guess I'll also add user activity of some kind feed. We have scene news. Not sure where we would get that, but that's pretty cool. Emulators requiring updates, or just like anything in LaunchBox requiring updates module. Top rated games by the community. The dynamic lists that we have inside of the Big Box Discovery Center. There's a randomized game module, games with achievements module, a similar games list, games based on other games that you've played, game recommendations based on other games you played. I listed some custom discovery lists. I'll get rid of this. I think I'm listing this twice. Custom discovery lists of some kinds that we can put together, like manual lists. Okay. So Mr. Nibble's got a good one. Okay, so like a high score leaderboard module, and we'll use an example of so and so just beat your high score, and other kinds of announcements that you can make in there. Time spent tinkering and not actually launching a game. Yeah, I like that example. You spent 47 hours this week in LB, 3 of which in games. Oh, and it sounds like C-Beats has volunteered to build all of this stuff out for us. So that's good, nice of him. Focusborg, I think I would add all of that stuff under some form of news module that users can customize to their liking. if that makes sense. Like there's like some news feed of hopefully emulation news. I mean, we're almost talking about just like an RSS feed, and then users can determine which feeds they want to see. Then we don't have to be specific. Users can determine that. And maybe we can add some defaults. But for the most part, if it's just an RSS feed, yeah, right? Anybody could add whatever feed they want. And all we're really building is like just the layout. Okay, so you will lose the Asus Sonic Suite, I guess, software driver situation when you disable Nehemic. What I'll do is I'll write down here. I'm not sure how we would do it, but I'll reevaluate the Nehemic big box message. So it's no longer an issue, and we can guarantee that. If we knew 100%, that's no longer an issue. We're on .NET 9. We're in a different environment than we were back then. It's possible we don't need it anymore. Or we can convert it into something else, maybe. It's no longer bothering you on startup. It's somewhere else until we know 100% certain that we're in the clear there. News. Hey, I'm going to write your name here so I remember. All right, a module specifically for free games, free storefront / Windows game. CB. Yeah, everyone's gonna love that. Just next update just loads up, and it's just like an ending credit screen. You beat LaunchBox and Big Box. Goodbye. Hey, it is a never-ending laundry list, but that's a good thing. All right, is everybody comfortable with what we have here? Anybody want to throw in 2 cents before we move on to the next topic? I think we're going to move on because we only have like 30 minutes. We have enough time to talk about one more topic. What is that topic? You guys are going to let me know. Is it the welcome wizard? Is it the big box hybrid view? Is it a big box marquee feature enhancement of some kind? Or do we want to dive into this age rating system? Thanks to Nogarth. Or other topics we can choose from. I don't know, pick. Let's see. or any other topic. If anybody's passionate about another topic, like what's in my mind right now is that I just tested the MAME high score feature, and we mapped out exactly how it works and how we can improve it and make it more robust and all that stuff. That's all floating through my mind right now. Focusborg, an onboarding wizard of some kind. Okay, all right. You were the first to say something, so let's start there. This is an open question. So we have in our mind what we want to do, what we want to include in this sort of welcome wizard concept. I'm not going to say that, what we have to influence you guys. Instead, tell me what you guys would absolutely need to have in there, or a better way of saying it, if it's not added into it, it's a huge missed opportunity. You'd be looking at this welcome wizard and thinking, what are these guys doing? They completely missed this. The one thing I will say about the welcome wizard is that it is an ongoing process that can change update to update. So something that we can revisit. It's not set in stone, and we can improve upon it each update. If we included a new feature, for example, well, maybe that feature needs to be in this onboarding process as well, and so we would be able to easily review this process and add to it and change it, and it's not something that's set in stone. But so for right now, what would you need to have in it? And RetroPython coming in with a late module. Wait, we already have high score leaderboards on the module. There you go. Didn't have to add anything. Well, it's good to know that that's what you want. Right here, high score leaderboards module. And one of them, example, although it would have a lot of things like you're saying, where you'd see different games, or you have your high scores on there, what your high scores are. But it could also be like, hey, somebody just beat your high score on game X, to indicate to you that you would want to play that game and beat them. Do you really want that, Focusborg? So you want us to point to every feature in LaunchBox and explain exactly what they all do? So a page that links to video tutorials. Although what you're talking about there is not part of an onboarding process, but it's just throughout the application. You want full explainers about what everything does. I go to the emulator settings, and somehow there's like a full video explaining emulator settings. I think that's outside of the scope of a welcome onboarding process. A link to a video, and Joe Vikings nicely mentioning you could go to menu help tutorials and bring you to a list of videos. So it would have to be something more targeted, you're thinking of, Focusborg, than that. or just a page with a newbie tutorial that somebody could watch. And that tutorial would then have to be updated with every change that we make to the program that could influence that tutorial video. Oh, give RetroPython something to do. And Darkfella. It sounds like you're talking about a different feature. User specific, if I'm reading this right. Media file audit? Okay, hold on. No, not user specific. Theme specific media file audit. Is that what you're talking about? You want a place in the theme that tells you where you like right click and like audit this theme, and is like, well, this theme uses these images from a user's library. RetroPython. So you only want a module that will let you know when I personally beat one of your scores. Did you find yourself in that predicament at all recently? And no Garth. Okay. All right. So here's one. So most common emulators, people would use okay, how about backwards than that? So instead of listing common emulators, you first get people to list the platforms, the ROMs they want to import. And then based on that, we recommend emulator recommendation page based on like a game ROM scan. Something like that. Focus board. You know, I'm going to add this. You basically... I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but you want us to create a onboarding character. I'm gonna call this character Wizzy. Okay, so you want us to either explain or link to the concept of emulators and ROMs. There, Retro Wizzy is the name now. All right, so let's envision this scenario so far. What we have: user downloads LaunchBox. They open up for the first time. A window pops up, and next to the window, there's a little wizard character. With voice acting. Not sure where we're going to store all those files. That's basically like, welcome to LaunchBox. LaunchBox uses your game collection and puts it into one nice place. Some of what LaunchBox will do is use emulators and ROMs. What are those exactly? An emulator is long paragraph. A ROM is long paragraph. Press next if you want to continue. Alright, so far so good from your guys' example. They press next, and the first thing that we ask is, show me where your ROMs are. We show them where, and then we go, here are some emulators we recommend that you use based on the games that you're presenting us with. We move on. The next page is here's a set of video tutorials that you can read if you wanted to find out about LaunchBox. And the last page is, if you just want to get started, here's a video showing you. ED. How's that sound? Based on your guys' suggestions. Oh, so you want an AI Retro Wizzy. You want to be able to ask it questions, and it will answer it for you. I do feel like that's outside of the scope of a onboarding wizard, but I'll keep it here. Oh, come on. If you're going to build something from scratch, write out the dialogue tree, write out everything, right? Write out all the answers in some form, and then put it through some sort of AI thing. And then you can ask it whatever question that you want as a user. And it will pick from those stuff that you already laid out in this sort of like tree or knowledge base thing and present it in a way that is of the character of Retro Wizzy. I think that's more powerful. Yeah. Yeah, I think John Connor will already not be too happy right now in the state of the world. Anything else that we wanted to add based on that scenario to an onboarding wizard? Oh, Focusborg, you want it to be a hold you by the hand game tutorial. The problem with game tutorials is that what if you don't want to do the exact thing that it's telling you to do? I think what most people will do instead of keep hitting skip, skip, skip is just close it. But if you can customize to exactly what the user's kind of thinking that they want to do and know what the answer would be, that's probably a bit more powerful. A completely skip or close button. Then we doing all this work for people to just skip it. Anyway, good. If was there anything else that you would add to? Let's ask it a different way. Is there any feature of LaunchBox that you feel is missing from what you guys have said that you think people should know about? Yeah, true that, Necros. You want to fix everything button. Fix computer. Like, hello, Wizzy. Please fix my computer. Links to resources. Links to resources, forums, Discord, Twitch. I mean, we got a lot of places. Facebook, Twitter. YouTube. Custom playlists. No, Garth. All right. Although that might not be an onboarding thing, but it's good to know that we could definitely explain that better. We do not have Blue Sky, although always open to adding more places that we're going to need to check. Maybe we'll replace one. Some of those aren't really getting anybody. That's good. And it. If we had, how about this, no, Garth? If we had like a a giant knowledge base, let's say somewhere, that we could then hook up to a character called RetroWizzy. And we basically just asked the RetroWizzy, like, imagine just like, I'm having problems with custom playlists. And then you say, well, this is my exact problem. You list it out. I'm not really understanding what this thing is for. And you press enter, and then it searches that massive knowledge base and brings you context-specific answer based on your exact problem with the knowledge that you need at that moment. Would that make sense to you? And focus Bork down to the basics. You've got import games, download, configure emulator, and I see what you did. That you threw in homebrew ROMs. But basically, if you just boil it down to, it doesn't matter which kind of game that they wanted to play. Like, get your game in LaunchBox, play game. This is what we want. We want a welcome wizard that gets you from, I have game, I want to play game. Show me how. So, Nogarth, surprisingly, we have a framework that if we built the knowledge base, we have the power to basically ask it anything that you want, and it would scan that knowledge base and bring up that answer for you. It wouldn't bring up a link to the answer. It would ingest that information and then present it to you, specifically answering the exact question that you've asked it based on the knowledge base information. So, like, we have that potential right now. What is stopping us from using it and integrating it into LaunchBox? I mean, other than time to build out that database, like that knowledge base, with as much information as we possibly can. And then time to integrate that framework, that API into LaunchBox. Would really be the only two things stopping us from having that be a reality. But let's say we decide we need to dedicate time to this. Let's dedicate 2 months. I'm going to do nothing but build out this knowledge base with as much information as we possibly can. Get as many people as we can that we trust to build it out with us, to try to get to an end of that. While in the meantime, we have the developers building out the client-side portion of it to be able to talk to this knowledge base through some APIs and, provide that context-specific answers that this thing might be able to give us. That is something we could do. And see, after this 2 months, this is what we have to show for it. It might be worth the investment. But I could see some people probably arguing against that. And those are probably everybody that already knows how to use LaunchBox. Would kind of wonder why we're spending all that time working on a knowledge base. Wizzy will rise. Yeah. All right, one more topic. I've got like 10 minutes. And we're either going to talk about a hybrid view, a marquee feature. And I kind of like marquee features. Is there anybody here that uses marquees? Or has the capability of doing that and is interested in it? Maybe I'll save this topic for later, because I don't think that there's that many people here that are invested in a feature like this. So, what I do know Nice, no Garth. That's your homework for the week. And come back next stream and we can elaborate on this stuff. Because a marquee screen is too niche, how about another niche feature? Do you have an RGB like light control? Is that why you want to talk about that? Well, that's the thing, Dark Bella. How about if it didn't need to only include the thing that you think it's supposed to do, right? Because right now we think of a marquee screen as, well, it's going to display like arcade images, right, for the marquee. But what if it didn't have to do that? What if there were different marquee modules that did different things for the user? And what could those be? Like, how about if there's a marquee and you can choose that screen is going to display achievements that you have to earn for the game that you're playing. And it updates and congratulates you when you achieve an achievement. Or maybe it displays the high scores leaderboard of the game that you're playing. That has high top score support. And then your name appears on it when you achieve a high score. You know, when the user decides what's going to be displayed on this screen. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's like the manual of the game, or a map of a game. Or maybe it's the controls of a game. The point of this conversation is, what if in a Marquee World 2.0 users had the decision on different modules that they'd want to use, and it just you got to decide. Maybe it's like a priority list. Display MAME high score list. But if this game doesn't have it, then display this thing. And if the game doesn't have that, then display that thing. And just keep going down the list. And the only thing stopping us is our imagination and time to build these modules. What modules would you guys want to see? And I'll list down a couple that I just listed, which are like achievement list, MAME high scores list, score leaderboards, game controls, documents, exactly, no Garth. Forget about what marquees do for people right now. It'll continue to do those things. If you could make anything, what would you want to see on a second? Forget about calling it marquees. What would you want to see on a second screen or a third screen while you are playing your game? Like a playtime counter. Some form of game statistics. I'm going to call it live game statistics of some kind. The time and date. There's a screen that will just be date and time overlay of some kind on your screen. Sure. To be honest, that one you could theme yourself today. You could build your own marquee theme and have it just display date and time. Cool, so no Garth. You've got the map and manual, which is under this documents one. You've got game controls specific to the controller that you are using. I mean, that one would be a whole other project, but one that I've always wanted to do. Yeah. Keep throwing ideas. Right? What would you want in a marquee feature like this, right? In a second screen feature. This is good stuff. You know, and I'm going to throw in just like an image displayer, which is similar to what we have now. I'm going to remove the word image. I'm going to call it media because it could be a video that plays or an image that appears. Retro Wizzy just appears on your second screen and just says hi. That would freak a lot of people out. That would be pretty funny. Dark fella, yeah, just like a some form of media that the user can decide what it would be for a game. So like a media displayer with like a list of fallbacks, maybe display a fan art, or maybe display this or that or the other thing, or maybe we can piece it together and have different kinds of media displays like we do now. For example, one of them is put a fan art in the background, slightly blur it, and put a clear logo on top of it. Those are used for more traditional marquees. So the documents browser, so you like the idea of the whole documents thing? That's good to hear. I think that's a pretty good list. A random factoid about the games or about the game you are playing. The game that you're playing. All right, let's see how AI handles that. It's the only way to do something like that would be if something like AI could handle those fun facts. Or we build a giant database of fun facts. That's another option as well. But here, I said, give me a fun fact about Gauntlet Legends, the arcade game. And it came back to say, let's see how fun this is. Gauntlet Legends was one of the first arcade games to allow players to save their progress using a password system. This was a groundbreaking feature at the time, as it enabled players to return to the game later and continue leveling up their characters, something rarely seen in arcade games of that era, which were typically designed for shorter play sessions. Is that interesting enough for you? Scenario, you're playing Gauntlet Legends and then this appears on the side of the screen. Yeah, it'll be Retro Wizzy that gives you that. That's a pretty good list, right? And if we do it in a way where users can decide on one of these many things that they want to see, and then maybe expand so that if you had 3 screens, you could have one on one screen, one on another screen, one on a 4th screen. That would be interesting. Retro WizzyCon. You're just going to take the Retro Wizzy concept and we're just going to have to do it. Oh, guys. That's a good amount of lists that we have there about a potential second screen enhancement. All right, last topic of the day because I'm running out of time. Or I guess last topic of the week. Oh, you're really going to do that, aren't you, Focusborg? Yeah, Dark Fella. It would have to be context sensitive. 100%. Like it could be don't display anything on those screens until you're playing a game, or it could be do this when you're not playing a game. Uh, do this when you're on a platform view or on a game list. Do this when you're playing the game. Do this when you're pausing a game. So what would that be? Event specific? You you want there to be a competition to see who makes the best version of Retro Wizzy. Oh. Here, let's see what. Okay, I don't really like this. Don't really like this image. But here's what Copilot wants it to look like. Wants him to look like. I feel like that's very very literal. The word retro wizzy. Let's just make a wizard and have him pixelated. What is a wizard? Well, like Merlin. Yeah. Good attempt. All right, last topic. As I am running out of time for this week. The age rating system, no Garth. Let's talk about that a little bit. If we are wanting to have an age rating system, or a system that can be used in features of LaunchBox, as an example, a feature as simple as a parental control feature that says only display games of these ratings, or in the opposite, lock out these games of these ratings. The problem we have now, and the problem we have with every single rating system in existence, is that not every game fits into those rating systems. A lot of games don't have a rating. Either they were made before ratings existed, or there's just too many games right now that are being released that these rating system, the rating council or whatever, they just don't have the time to rate all of those games. So a lot of games just don't have a rating. And so naturally, in a user's library, lots of games won't be rated. How do we solve that problem? More specifically, knowing that games will never have a rating using these like ESRB, PEGI, whatever. They're just games that will just never have a rating ever. There's no solution for it. They just won't have it. They'll never go back in time and rate something from the 80s. Well, you could do that already, Focusborg. You're just like, I have a set of games and I don't want them to see it when I stream. And when do you stream? You got to tell everybody when your streams are happening so that we can watch it. All right, so this is the conundrum. What do we do in this sense? Because yeah, we've had requests where they just say, add the PEGI system, add the system from Japan, add Sega, the Sega Gen. You remember the Sega, like the Sega rating system? Add fun ones like that. It's all fun, and it's great for data integrity and just being able to see all those rating systems, but you can't use any of them for a full-fledged feature that is designed to use these systems. So what do we do? One solution could be having a LaunchBox rating system. Maybe it is based off of some average of all the other rating systems as a base. And then we go, okay, this is sort of like guidelines. Imagine that this rating system can apply to any game now in our library. And so we open up the game's database and say, people can rate these games using this rating system, this imaginary rating system that we just made up, that has all this information filled out based on other rating systems. But now you are allowed to fill in the blanks because this rating system is really only used in LaunchBox for the sole purpose for feature sets to be added to use this rating system. So if we went down that route, then the question is, would people do it? Would there be people on the games database filling out thousands of games and adjusting or giving them a rating? What would that system be like? Maybe it would have to be something like anyone can give it a rating, and when a game reaches 20 or 50 ratings from people, then we take the top answer. And that becomes the rating. So maybe it's like anyone can rate anything. There's no moderation involved. You just rate it. And then based on some threshold, once the game reaches that threshold, then the rating becomes the most frequently rated for that game. And then from there on, if that rating changes, because now we've got like 1,000 people that have rated it, and 500 people have rated it this way, and all the other 500 rated it like some other ways, but the 500 people, that's the most amount that gave it some rating, M for mature or whatever we want to call it. That's what it becomes. So it's like some sort of democratic, less moderation gated thing, and more like a democracy rating system. Well, and then on top of that, with an override, user override. So like in your own library, you give a game a rating and it prioritizes above the community one. In your own library only. Does that make sense? But because you rated it in LaunchBox, that rating gets optionally sent to the game's database as one of the ratings that people have voted for. It's very similar to how community star ratings work. Well, that's the next question. What would that rating be? Should we base it off of... I mean, if you look at rating systems, it's not like we don't have a lot to go on. The issue, I don't think, is in those rating systems. Rating systems are very good. The problem is, if we use any of those as it is right now, I mean, we could use any of those as is right now. The problem that we ran into is just like, if they don't rate them, we can't rate it for them. So what our rating system looks like could be whatever. Don't get into themes. I know you want to get into themes of games. I think specifically we're looking at the age rating systems for this case. If you want to look at tags or themes or that sort of thing, that'll be another conversation, which we could apply the same kind of logic to. But for this conversation, we're looking at video game content rating systems. Look at all these. We could just use one and say that is now ours and we're using all of their same standards. So imagine if they were to rate the game. Like we go through that. That's what you would be rating inside of LaunchBox. You know, whether it is North America or PEGI or whatever the crap that we want to go with, or the International Age Rating Coalition. Somebody recently mentioned that one. Let's take a look at PEGI. Well, let's say we decided to do PEGI, for example. Then yes, they do have the age and they have some kind of small description about why they chose it. In-game purchases, fear, discrimination, drugs, gambling, bad language, violence, and sex. Is there more, or is that just all of them? That's apparently all of them. So it could be something like that. Right. So in this case, users of LaunchBox, whatever rating system what we decide on, could end up rating Slaughterhouse, you know, more favorably down to like 12, age 12, or PEGI 7 or something, and the majority will win out there. far as the community rating. Does any of this make sense? I guess the question then, okay, now that we've established what this could look like, would anybody find this beneficial? What are the benefits of a system like that? The benefits is that Focusborg would have some uses for it. I guess another benefit could be content restrictions, sort of like a parental controls type of thing. It could be used for game discovery. Could be used for user playlists as like rules for people that want to create hard-coded playlists for this stuff. And general filtering. Just like navigating around. Just like, show me all the games with this rating. Yeah, make your LaunchBox family friendly with one click. Yeah, that is a big one. But an even bigger one is that Focusborg would have some uses for it. That's why it's number 1 on the list. So the bottom of the list is kind of like another fun thing to do in LaunchBox. It's just another thing that you can go around and be like, I score it this, I score it that. You're giving it some scores, like based on the games that you have in your library. And by doing that, you're providing benefits for the whole community. So you're picturing RetroWizzy as just like a swearing machine, unless you make it specific to a family-friendly version based on content restrictions. Oh man. All right, before we go, I think you have to tell us what your stream channel is. It used to be focus break. Does that mean it's not focus break anymore? Does that mean you're using a different account now? No. It is that time again where I'm going to have to say goodbye to everybody. But let's review what we talked about this week. We talked about the Game Discovery Center, what it would look like in LaunchBox. All the different kinds of lists and modules that we would want to see if that were to come to some version of LaunchBox in the future. We talked about what a onboarding wizard could look like, how far we should go with that, and how many words that Retro Wizzy should be swearing in it. Then we talked about the marquee, if we ever did a marquee feature enhancement. I guess a better word for that would be multi-screen feature enhancements with different modules like an achievements, MAME high score leaderboards, game controls, documents, playtime counters, live game statistics, just time and date looking thing, maybe playing some, I don't know, gallery of game images or something. And then we talked about the age rating system, what we could do for that, and we seemed to land on a specific LaunchBox rating system that could be democratically rated on by the users, for the users, for any game that's in the library. It's in anybody's library that's on the games database. What we didn't talk about was a potential for a big box hybrid view. I've got an advanced knowledge base with custom playlists that a R-rated Retro Wizzy would be telling you about. And we have down theme-specific media file audit, which we didn't really elaborate on, but we did write down. And we should be reevaluating that Nahimic big box warning. Hey, we can always talk about it next week. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Once again, we'll do this again next week. Next Thursday, please don't forget to come. No Garth, Focusborg, ED, everybody that came today. Very happy to see everybody. And we will have a beta 2 out if you are willing to test it in Windows and provide constructive criticism on any of the changes that are coming, because a full release is pending after that, we're hoping. So thanks everybody for coming. Yeah, have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next week.